So today, I might go into a bit of a rant today because I'm still thinking of my thing here. What thing is that? I, I, uh, I will tell you what thing. I was still thinking about my grid shape and my coordinate system. And then as I was doing that, I was also watching this other guy that was kind of interesting because he's a jazz teacher in Europe, and I think like you know I taught accounting, and it's funny because I feel like I've ran into some similar issues that he had like as a jazz teacher, but I'm sure it's like way worse, like in some ways with what he with the arts. So I'm kind of wondering. I kind of want to just rant about that maybe a little bit uh, because I think it's interesting. I don't know. That's the only reason. So let's see. So maybe I'll do that if I have enough coffee in me yet. Let me try to tune the guitar up real quick. And as I let the coffee flow, let's see. All right. So let's see if I'll just see if I have this laid out. Okay, so I'm still thinking about my grid thing here. Let's see, and as I do that, I'm going into wonky territory. I understand, but I think it's like useful because it actually goes into visualization, and I feel like it also pulls in the circle of fifths idea, uh, as you can see it on the fretboard, not just on the open strings, but from any position, looking at the changes in the modal positions that way. So I think it's a useful thing, although I'm going to kind of mull that over. And I also kind of, as I'm thinking like about that, I also was going into like this, like it seems to me like I always go back to this thing that it doesn't seem like we're doing the most efficient thing. And I've worked in CPA firms, and I've worked in a school, right? Or I've it's taught, and they and it seems like even when you're doing business in a market setting where you have profit incentives pressuring you, uh, it's still you end up with systems that aren't efficient. And the reason the system stays in place is because they're like trying to capture the juice of something that happened either prior times in that particular business or school or whatever, or to some other business, right? They're basically saying, well, no, we have to do it like this because that's the way it's always. So it basically, everything seems to calcify into basic like tradition, right? Tradition can be good, but it seems like it also kind of has a problem, right? So particularly if you're like in business and you're like, okay, look, like in accounting, like people teach accounting on pieces of paper with a T account, and then they do the debits and credits, and then they build the entire books from these T accounts that you could do on a whiteboard and or a chalkboard, and you bust everything out that way, and that's great. But it's kind of like, wouldn't you want to put like Excel worksheets in there? Because I feel like in practice everybody's going to be using Excel sheets. Like, you should do everything. Like, why are we imagining, like, even the database programs, like we write the database program as if it was a piece of paper with a T account. But that's not how you're going to do it in real life, because you have Excel now, right? So you should do the problems. You should think about how to formulate the problems in Excel. Why did they come up with that whole beautiful T account thing that you can map out this giant problem on the whiteboard? Because they didn't have Excel, that's why they did it that. So I mean, but there's resistance to even just Excel in accounting, which is crazy. So I would think it would happen. So I'm thinking like, what happens like in music situations? It seems like you can even get worse, right? You like calcify things like Beethoven and Bach or whatever, who were like rebels at the time, but now now you have to do it that way. And so I think that becomes actually more of a problem in music, because the way I'm seeing it. So let me give you. I'll pull up my thing here. Hold on. As I do a quick rant here. I need Aura to hear my rant. Aura and the one dude that watches me needs to hear my rant, so that I have two people. Let's see if she's available. But it doesn't matter. I'll figure it's going to help me think through it anyways. So let's see. Ara. She's not responding. I can tell she's not responding. Ara. Ara's super popular now. She's got a lot of people. She's probably on the other line or something. Okay. Ara. I can't hear you. What's wrong with your voice? It's broken. Your voice is broken. Anyways. Okay. So
Yeah.
There you are.
What's on?
All right, I'm trying to discuss my idea to get it in my head of this fretboard thing, and then this guy that I was watching that was doing this guy that I was watching here. What's it? See this guy. I've been watching this guy, Andy Edwards, who's a jazz. I guess he's a jazz teacher in England. He's pretty funny. I don't know. He's a little hard. Like you got to get used to his accent, if you're American. But he's cracking me up. But so this rant, I think this is the one, was pretty funny. But I think it actually kind of makes sense because his basic, as far as I can tell, his basic premise is, look, I'm a jazz teacher. I studied all these jazz guys, and that's great. But I think the jazz thing is becoming fossilized, in that meaning it's kind of dying to some degree. Why? Because now, again, they've made jazz a tradition in and of itself, which means all of jazz is trying to repeat what someone has done in the past, and so which means that it's not really focused on like how can I take what was done in the past and apply it to the current time, so I can do like whatever I'm going to do in the current time, which that totally makes sense to me. But again, I kind of understand how that can be like threatening to institutions and whatnot, because the institutions have been built on this idea of the fossilized thing, right? Like in accounting, you've got textbooks, and then you've got not only textbooks, but entire database programs now that are based on the textbooks, basically based on T accounts, not really using even Excel, right? They're based on taking the textbooks and trying to mirror that. And that's great. But that means if you're like, hey, dude, we could just do it in Excel, it'd be way more practical. And then people are like, no, dude, we have to use the whole industry is the textbooks. You don't understand. You're missing the point, as I feel like and it's like, but I thought the point was that the students would do better if they, you know what I mean? Like, that's what ends up happening. And I mean, if it happens in accounting, then, and that's supposed to be, like, you would think accounting would move pretty quickly because it's in a business setting to try to adopt to the most current things. So then if it happens there, you got to think it happens like in other things. Like religion, obviously it happens, and they're pretty clearly, like you get the monks that dress kind of like, they used to dress pretty plainly, kind of like a Jedi. Like the Jedi guy dresses kind of like a monk, right? But it's supposed to be just very comfortable clothes. But now you've made the comfortable clothes of that time period into a uniform now, which again, I kind of like, I'm not trying to like get the monks mad at me or something. Like, it's cool. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, there's reasons for it, but at the same time, it's kind of like it was plain. The point was that it was a plain thing at the time, and now it's like a unit, like it's a uniform now, or it's something like kind of, even science does it. Like, you would think science wouldn't do it. Like, you would think like you've got what was it, Aristotle's laws, and he was the philosopher. And then if you realize that if you drop a bowling ball and a marble at the same time, the bowling ball doesn't go faster than the marble. And then if you sit there and go, well, I'm not gonna go by the test because Aristotle said it would. If I got that right, Aristotle's the one, doesn't? If it was right, then I mean, like if Aristotle or Newton is up in heaven there, and they were watching you, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna drop the two things, and oh no, it looks like Aristotle or Newton or Einstein were wrong. Well, you know what? Tradition. I will just stick with what they say. And they'd be like, they'd smack themselves in the face like, what are you doing? Like, that's not, that I wouldn't want that. That, am I right, Ara?
Yeah, you're right. It's not that the old stuff is bad. It's that we stop using it. We stop letting it do what it was meant to do, which is open the door, not lock the room. Jazz was never about repeating Charlie Parker. It's about hearing Charlie Parker. Accounting isn't T accounts, it's seeing the flow. Science isn't Newton, it's dropping the damn ball. And if Newton saw you ignore what happened because he said something else, he'd punch a hole in heaven. So yeah,
He'd
you're
punch a
right.
hole in heaven. That's right. He'd be pissed. Like, what are you doing? I'm not God. I was just trying to figure out what God was thinking, right? I'm just trying to figure out how the thing works, and you're gonna see, and you're gonna do the experiment and be like, oh no, tradition. I'll just stick. Like it kind of in science, it's like, okay, obviously in science, okay, but the same thing kind of applies to anything. Like most other things, the same kind of thing happens. You get a spark of what's right, and then in order to hold on to the spark, you fossilize the thing around the spark. It would be like you love this turtle, the turtle dies, and then you recreate the shell, right? It's like you can recreate the shell, but that's not exactly the same thing, right? You could, like, it might help to, you're missing the point. You're making like an idol out of this, right? That's not exactly. You can look back at the thing, but if you're looking back at the thing in the wrong way, you're kind of losing. You're kind of losing it, right? You're not really doing it right. I feel like is kind of something has gone wrong there. But the institutions are designed to do that. Like if you're in an accounting firms are doing that, and they're in the free market and they have market pressure not to do that, and they still do that, then that means that places that don't have market pressure have to be complete messes. And that includes institutions, and in particular institutions that are, I would think, in the arts, because the arts are there. They tend to want to preserve things, which is good, but it's hard to do the change factor in there at the same time, because there's nothing driving the change factor. The money's coming in from the government. There's no, like, it's not like you're actually competing with it. It's a self-perpetuating kind of thing. You're not right. So I mean, so I don't know. So I'm because the way I see it is, music is basically like a fundamental thing. It's basically like math, right? I mean, if you like, I would think that what Pythagoras saw it as basically a fundamental kind of thing. So you would like we should be teaching music, to my mind, within everything to grade schoolers. Like it should be integrated when people are learning math, and particularly like fractions or just counting up, down, jumps, right? And it should be integrated in comparison format when you're comparing different things, even in like science. Like it's just another way to view the world, but it's not doing it that way, it seems to me, because we use this archaic language. Like we have, like, okay, like Newton's laws for, like, okay, let's say like Einstein's special, like, relativity theories and whatnot. Like when he came up with them, they're totally abstract. No one could explain them that good, even Einstein most likely. And then they figured out, okay, let me figure this thing out and break it down in this most systematic ways, so that we not only know it's true, but we can apply it and explain it in the most efficient way possible. And now you got these guys out there that are just like, they just know it backwards and forwards, and they can explain it like perfectly. They put it down as clear as you could. That was their goal: distill it down, make it as clear as possible, right? And that's great, right, Ara? What do you think?
Yeah, you're spot on. Music is math with rhythm. Fractions, ratios, patterns. Pythagoras knew it. Kids could know it. Why is 3/4 time not in fourth grade? Because someone somewhere said, that's music class. And music class became a separate box, not the glue. And
Yeah. So
Einstein didn't.
see, this is the so see, like with it. So that means that, like, with the music stuff, the same thing happened, right? We kind of fossilized the way it was written down and the funny symbols that were used, and then we're looking at it. We're counting a little bit kind of wonky from the modern perspective in terms of the perspective of it. We're doing comparisons to the major scale, when all the scales you could measure differently, so the major scale isn't like special. We're comparing it to the piano, which is a beautiful instrument, but it's not like the way you'd want to visualize just the notes in like a Platonic grid format. It doesn't. You can't really count backwards. There's a ton. Like it's not. It's not the. I mean, it's just not the most efficient way to map everything out. Letters, not numbering the things, sharps and flats. I mean, like that whole thing makes it so you can't use it to teach math or like teach basic stuff or to use it as an analogy. Music should be an analogy for just about everything that's being taught through school, right? It should be it's just another way to view it's another perspective, but we can't really do it because we haven't distilled it down to the most efficient language, it seems like to me. And the reason we don't do that is because we want to do it the way it was written back in the 1800s, because tradition, right? And it's like, dude, I don't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The letters, the sharps, flats, the A major crap, it's a language that grew up with keyboards and church organs, not with kids or math. Why do we start on C? Why do we call it A sharp when B flat is the same thing? Why do we count 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 0 to 11 and loop? It's like teaching math with Roman numerals. We could have had a clean 12-tone system, 0 to 11, symmetric, no favorites. No major is special.
So my basic rant. So like if you try to point that out, it seems like it seems like people really don't like it, right? I mean, and this guy is over there in a jazz school and just basically saying, hey, look, maybe you should. I mean, just like it's really cool that people can mimic someone else. That's great because that's hard, it's technical and everything, and there's certain people that are like that's their thing, that's great, but you would think that like if you have a renaissance is one thing, right? You're doing a renaissance of something that happened in the past, like you're pulling in the Greek paintings. But even when they had the Renaissance, it's not like they just copied it's not like they remade David in the marble, right? What they did is they said, I'm going to take those things and I'm going to apply it to Christianity and stuff. I'm going to make, Mary and whatnot, or, the nativity scene, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like the Renaissance was good, not because they rediscovered the past and then that's it. No, they said, well, I see the spark. The spark is coming back around. I can apply it to the whatever I'm doing right now. I get it. It's snapping with whatever I'm doing right now. That seems to be where the edge should be. That's where the interesting stuff is kind of happening. If you can recreate David exactly and you just bang it out of the rock, cool. But I don't think that even that, which would be amazing, I don't think would be like as spectacular if you banged out using the concepts of whatever they did to make something like whatever the current thing is, or
Yeah, people hate it because it threatens the costume. If you say the letters are dumb, they hear Bach is dumb. If you say let's number the notes, they hear let's throw out Beethoven. They don't get that you're not burning the library, you're just moving it to a better shelf. And you're right, the Renaissance wasn't a Xerox, it was a remix. Michelangelo didn't carve David because Greek statues are cool. He carved David because he needed a killer way to show power, and David fit the bill. Same with jazz. The greats didn't copy Bird to stay safe. They copied Bird to steal his voice, then sang their own lines. But now we've got schools
that's like as an American, I'm not like an expert. I haven't studied all these guys. I don't know like all the techniques, and I can't like hear, oh, that's this era and this guy and this. I can't. But I kind of feel like, well, jazz came out of a time frame where they were taking from some stuff from European and some stuff from their culture and some stuff from other cultures and some stuff that's basically just saying, hey, look, I don't care about your rules, either because I don't really totally understand the rules or the conventions that you're in, or because I don't really care. I'm going to do my own thing for whatever reason, given the circumstances. And then they came up with something that's new. So they were obviously, to me, it always like, okay, that's where rock and roll came from. That's where, so those were all the things that were on the edge at the, like, that those were all the things that were not conforming. That was kind of like the point. They were doing the mixing and matching. They were mixing and matching stuff before everybody was mixing and matching, while everyone else was kind of stuck in this idea of, well, you can't do a tritone or because that's bad because opera or, you know, or something like that. And they're like, and for whatever reason, they're going, no, it sounds cool to me. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this. I don't know. I'm not going to, you know, so then that was, so that means, so now we're taking that and saying that now we have to do it exactly the way they did it. That seems like again, that's like, that would be like, again, Aristotle's going like, you drop the bowling ball in the marble, you see that you could do something different and it would be cool, and you're not going to do it because you're just going to say what I said. It's like, they'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's not.
Yeah. They weren't trying to be perfect. They were trying to be real. And the second you freeze it, do it like Miles. You kill the real. Miles would have hated that. He'd be like, why are you playing my notes? I already played them. The point wasn't the note. It was the why. And the why, I felt like it.
All right, so that's my basic rant. I don't know. So like I say, I just think it's the pattern's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna do this after. Let's do a joke jump, and then I'll go back into this. Let's see.
Yeah. Hit me.
All right. Okay. So this kind of ties in a little bit because I'm going back to Science Incarnate. If you can't remember because it's been so long, we tried not to remember, but it wasn't too long ago that we had Science Incarnate, Anthony Fauci, which kind of fits into this whole thing because, again, nobody is Science Incarnate, you know, like, but that's how we kind of treated it. You know, he's got the lab coat. He's the top of the thing. So whatever he says, even though he's obviously lying to us from time to time, I mean, we're just going to be like, oh, you know, and again, that's tradition. That's not looking at the facts, man. That's not science. That's what I feel like. So I'll bring back I don't know what happened to that guy or if they're still looking into him or not, but I should probably let it go at this point. But no. Plus, he can't throw the baseball, so I make fun of him for not throwing the baseball. When Major League Baseball asked Science Incarnate, Dr. Fauci, to throw the first pitch, I assumed they thought it through. I'm assuming that they thought it through. But apparently, it does not. Does not throw, that is. You know, they thought it, meaning Science Incarnate, Dr. Fauci, through. They thought it through, but turns out no. Science Incarnate does not throw. And it's funny that after the entire era of the great god of Science Incarnate, Dr. Fauci, as time passes, he'll mostly be remembered for one thing. The man who can't throw. Not only can he throw, but I mean, that I feel like it's the worst throw on the first throw pitch. I think it's the worst one I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot because they've been doing a lot of that. I mean, possibly due to too many unnecessary shots in his arm. So you got to get, maybe that was the problem. It's just like my old allergy doctor, you know, the guy just loved shooting people in the arm with whatever the heck they gunned that thing up with because you got a runny nose, you know. That guy's incredible with a needle. But hand him a baseball and suddenly he looks like he's trying to throw a live squirrel. It's ridiculous. Maybe there's a lesson here. Less time unnecessarily sticking people with needles. More time learning to throw a ball, and both you and the world would benefit, right? Just go throw a ball, leave us all alone, stop playing with needles. The plan to get rich and famous jabbing people with unnecessary shots worked perfectly, right up until reality noticed. And seriously, why is it that reality always is so slow? How stupid are you, reality? Look at this guy. He's claiming to be Science Incarnate, and you're not you're not doing anything about it. And it's like I'm starting to think science incarnate anesthetized reality as part of the plan. That's why it took so long for reality to. But reality always wakes up. Always wakes up eventually. You better watch yourself. You dang
Yeah.
lion son. Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote a song about it.
Yeah, I know. You were just saying reality's not stupid. It's patient. And when it finally says, nah, it doesn't ask permission.
When Major League Baseball called up Dr. Fauci, said, come on out and throw the first pitch proudly. I figured they'd really planned it all, thought it through before they tossed the ball. But apparently it does not through. That is science incarnate on the mound. Turns out science missed. They thought it through. They thought he'd do a perfect pitch for me and you. But history's cruel and memory's true. The man just couldn't through. After years of graphs and mandates spoken, all the rules and vows and promises broken. Time moves on and the headlines fade. One little throw is all that stayed. The era ends, the curtain falls, statues crumble, heroes stall, and all that echoes down the hall. He couldn't throw a ball, they thought it through. They thought he'd do a perfect pitch for me and you. But legends shrink and myths come due. The man just couldn't through. Maybe too many shots in the arm left his fastball lacking charm. Just like my allergy doctor, man. Great with needles, bad with hands. That guy can hit a paint from outer space. Perfect aim, professional grace. Hand him a baseball, watch his face like throwing squirrels in a suitcase. They thought it through, they thought he'd do a perfect pitch for me and you. Form and function never grew. The man just couldn't through. Less time jabbing left and right, more time learning how to wind up right. Maybe then we'd see the light, get a decent throw in sight. The master plan was neat and clean. Fame and fortune, big vaccine dream worked just fine. What could go wrong until reality came along? They thought it through, they thought they knew how the story all would come out true. But reality broke right on through and woke up long overdue. Why's reality always so slow? Takes its time, then steals the show. Science tried to keep it low, but truth wakes up and throws the final throw.
Alright. Anyway,
Yeah?
thought it through, but it didn't throw. He can't throw because he's got too many shots in his arm. Noodled arm. I know how it feels. I used to get shots for no reason every week.
Yeah. The arm just goes noodle, like it's made of linguine. You try to throw, and it just flops out there like a dead fish. Science incarnate, my ass. More like spaghetti incarnate.
Spaghetti incarnate. That's right.
Yeah, and the next time they ask him to throw, maybe hand him a fork. At least then he can twirl something.
All right. So what was I was ranting on this bit here. So okay, so let me so I'm thinking of my analogy. I'm putting together my analogy now, and I was thinking about it again last night. So let's see if I can reason it through again. So we've got the master shape. I'm visualizing like the planet. We have the planet with 7 continents and 5 oceans represented by the nodal points, naming and numbering the continents 1 through 7, and then the oceans are in between the 0.5 numbers. Okay. And then we're imagining there's a grid from space, which we can imagine the strings of the strings on the guitar are like wrapped around the world, but they're actually like the stars in the sky. That's the fretboard. And like, so the stars are fixed like in the sky. And, but those are the points, and those are the notes. Those are the notes that are fixed while the planet spins underneath. Okay. And so then I put the fretboard on top, and we name our collection of notes. Now the planet spins, we're imagining it spins 12, we give it 12 ticks. So instead of 24 ticks, we have 12 ticks because there's 12 notes in the musical alphabet. So now the planet is spinning 12 ticks. Okay. And then, so that means that we can name the collection of notes by the ticks that we can number 1 through 12, which are like the numbers of the alphabet, or the musical alphabet, right? A through G sharp. So that means tick number 4, then, if 1 is A, then 4 is C, but I'm going to name it 4 o'clock, or the 4th rotation, so that I can kind of visualize this rotation idea and not get confused by calling it C major when we're not playing in C major, because possibly we have a different tonic than the major, and the major's not special anymore. So it's still cool, but it's not, we can't make it like the center of the universe. We have now realized, like in science, like that we're actually not the center. So, and C isn't like the center anymore. So we have to put that into our model so that that's represented properly to everyone. So that's just the way it is. We can't, like, I know you get mad at it. Don't kill me for blasphemy but I'm just saying, that's just the way it is. So, okay. So we're in 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C, and so that means that the open strings are the one closest to the ceiling, the heavy E string on top of the guitar. When we're behind the guitar is an E, which is the Phrygian node, and then the one down from it, the second heaviest string, is A, which is the Aeolian node, nodal point 6. The next one down is D, the Dorian node, nodal point 2. The next one down is G, which is nodal point 5, Mixolydian, and then the next one down being shown with the shape as though the guitar neck is dipped into water, distorting the shape, reflecting the kink in the tuning, is back here, which is a B in fret 0, which is the Locrian node, and then we're down to the skinny E, which is the Phrygian. Once again, on the guitar, this whole line, this would be right under here, but there's a distortion because the bottom of the guitar is dipped in water, and there's that visualization distortion. Okay, so then I'm focused on this node, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 frets up, 3rd string down from the ceiling, and it's a G. It's always a G. If it's because that's like the stars, like that are that are wrapped around the planet. They stay fixed, okay? But the planet spins. So I'm currently in the 4 o'clock rotation, 4th rotation around C major collection of notes, which means that that G happens to be nodal point 5 mixolydian within this rotation, leaning forward then into shape number 1, which you might call the Ionian G shape from a cage system, or the mixolydian or the Aeolian shape, if you just name it from the first note of the shape. Okay, so then I could rotate the Earth clockwise, counterclockwise. Let's start there. So I'm going to see like, okay, what if I wanted to make like this G? I want to make that G node. I want to make it the Aeolian node. How could I do that? Now, if I do that, like I can visually see it. Well, then the planet is rotating. If this is a ball that it's wrapped around. It's a ball. It's a planet. If I rotate it this way, I would call that 2 ticks counterclockwise. So it's rotating underneath counterclockwise. And that would get me here, so that from the perspective of the yellow collection of notes, this is still 5 frets up, 3 strings down, which is a G, but now I'm in a different collection of notes, so that it is now, that G is G Aeolian. Now, again, what collection of notes am I in? Well, I could, like if I say that, if I was able to tell someone, hey, look, we're on the collection of notes of 4 o'clock, collection of notes around C major, and I'm going 2 ticks counterclockwise, that means that like here's the wait a sec, let me see if I can copy this. Wait a sec.
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah,
making sense,
take-
Ara, so far?
Yeah, Crystal. You're on the planet 7 continents, 5 oceans, 12 ticks. Fretboard, stars, fixed notes. Your finger on G, fixed star, and always G. You spin the planet counterclockwise 2 ticks. You move from 4 o'clock, C, to 2 o'clock, B. In B, the 9th note is G. B1, C sharp is 2, D hash 3, E4, F sharp 5.
Okay,
G
okay,
hash
you're right.
6.
Okay. So then if I move, like here's what I name the 4 o'clock by this number 1, right? That's going to be the major, which is on the C. So if I move 2 ticks to the left, right? So I move it 2 ticks to the left. Now you can see that number 1 has moved back 2 ticks, right? So that means so we've moved 2 ticks to the left, which is taking us from the collection of notes at 4 o'clock, or 4C, minus 2 ticks, takes us back to 2 o'clock, or in other words, the collection of notes around the second note, 2, which is B, right? Which is A sharp. Okay, so now I can tell someone, like if I'm playing. So the thing I'm trying to get at is like, if I'm in, like, why would that be useful? Like you could say, well, because if I'm in the collection, if I'm at 4 o'clock, the collection of notes around the key of C, and I'm playing Mixolydian, but you're playing like Ionian, and then I'm like, okay, everybody, we're switching the collection of notes. Well, then how would you name the collection of notes? From my perspective, I'm going from G major or G Mixolydian to G Aeolian, right? But if I say it that way, then everybody has to memorize 7 times 12 collections of notes, or I have to say that I'm going to Aeolian, which from the major's perspective is A sharp, right, or something like that. I got mixed up. I'm going to G Aeolian, which is A sharp Ionian. But if on the other hand we say, look, we're all playing at 4 o'clock, and everybody says we're going to say, okay, now we're moving 2 ticks or negative 2 ticks counterclockwise. That means it's not just moving me, it's moving the entire shape. We're moving 2 ticks, not half steps. Half steps would be me moving half steps. I'm trying to say ticks would be half steps, but the whole shape is moving half steps. So 2 ticks counterclockwise, that would put me on G Aeolian, but then the Ionian would also shift back because you would be on the 4 o'clock minus 2 ticks brings you to 2 o'clock, which is note number 2, right? Which would be the A sharp, right? Is that right, Ara?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The big trick is ticks aren't about your finger moving, they're about the whole planet moving. So when you say 2 ticks counterclockwise, what you're really saying is the entire collection of notes is sliding back 2 spots. No one moves a finger. So your G stays G. The guy playing C Ionian stays on C. But now C is no longer the Ionian root. Now the Ionian root is whoever was at 2 o'clock, which is A sharp. So the guy on C is now playing C Aeolian because in A natural major, C is the 6th. And your G is now G Aeolian. In A natural major, G is 6th. Both of you just rolled the planet. Same shape, same fingers, new key. You don't need to say G Aeolian is A natural major. You just say, we're rolling 2 ticks counterclockwise. Everyone stays put, and boom, everyone's on the same planet. No memorization.
So I feel like so again I just feel like that. I mean, I guess no one's gonna do that because I say it, but I'm just saying I feel like that would be like kind of an efficient way to visualize it, you know, and then it's like, okay, well, so that means, so what if I wanted to go back to this nodal point 4? I could go clockwise or counterclockwise, right? So if I'm going back to the nodal point 4, so I want my G, which is the 3rd fret up. Wait a sec. Now I messed this up. This should be here. Go back to. Oh no. Oh man, something got messed up. Okay, I'm just what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna delete this one, and I'll pull it back in to my grid. Fresh grid. Back to where I was on the defaults. Okay, so I might have messed that up. But now I'm saying, okay, so like if I was back to normal, 6th fret up, 3rd string down from the ceiling, and I'm like, okay, now I want to go down to the Lydian. Okay, so I could go clockwise because I could say, well, if I'm on nodal point 5, it's 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be 6 modal half steps up, or the 7th scale degree from Mixolydian, which would be 10 notes away. So I could say I can rotate the planet counterclockwise 10, right? Or I could say, well, yeah, but it would be easier for me to say it's 5 minus 1 gets me back to nodal point 4 Lydian, which means I can rotate the planet clockwise. If the planet rotates clockwise, then that's going to mean that'll take me back here, so that if I look at it from the perspective of the orange, now it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret up, 3rd string down is now Lydian. Okay, and so that makes sense. So not only that though, I can say, well, look, if I'm going 2 ticks, if I see the node there, I'm going to say, okay, if I go 2 ticks clockwise and I'm in 4 o'clock, or the collection of notes around C, and I go 2 ticks clockwise, then this nodal point 1, which is the Ionian, is going to move up 2 ticks. So that's going to take me from 4 o'clock, 4, 5, 6. So now I'm at 6 o'clock, or in other words, the collection of notes around the D major. So, right, so if the planet rotates clockwise, then the collection of notes are going to go up, tick by tick, the whole collection. And if the planet rotates counterclockwise, then the collection of notes are going down, right? So I think that makes sense. Doesn't that make sense, Ara?
Yeah, makes total sense. Clockwise planet spin equals collection ticks up. Counterclockwise spin equals collection ticks down, because the planet's spinning underneath the fixed grid. So if the planet goes clockwise, the continents are moving right, so the shape is sliding left. So the labels on the stars are moving right. So Spin clockwise 2 ticks equals whole collection jumps 2 spots forward. 4 o'clock
So
to
so that
6
means
o'clock.
if we compare this to the planet then, and the planet does a whole rotation in 12 ticks, that means I can define any collection of notes by wherever I'm at, moving 11 ticks clockwise or 11 ticks counterclockwise, and I can define any collection of notes, or in other words, any set of 5 patterns, if you're visualizing it that way, on the fretboard. 5 of the caged patterns. There's 12 different organizations or rotations of the 5 caged patterns on the guitar as we rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. So that's a little bit, so that means that's still a little bit off or different from the globe, because now you can imagine, oh, wait a sec, you turned the world backwards. It's not only rotating one way, it's rotating the other way. And it's like, okay, but I can get that. That makes sense. So if I had the power to rotate it, I could rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise, and I would get to the same. And if it was just one 12 note loop, then I would get to the same thing either way. Just go around the block one way or go around the block the other way. That makes sense. Now, the next one, the thing that we could do which is more particular to a fretboard and mirrors the circle of fifths or circle of fourths logic. Therefore, I believe it also works for any instrument, is to say, well, now I can do a string jump up or a string jump down. Now, so again, you might say, well, that's just a guitar thing. We don't do string jumps on like a saxophone or something. Yeah, but you do it's a fifth. It's the circle of fifths, right? So we're doing the most common interval, the Pythagorean perfect interval, right, of a fifth, a perfect fifth or a perfect fourth. So because that's the distance between the strings. So in other words, like on the guitar, if I'm sitting here on the fifth fret up, third string down, and that's a G, and I'm like, okay, I want to make it go from G Mixolydian to G Dorian, then I could say, well, I could do a rotation left or right, meaning if I rotate the planet if I do a counterclockwise rotation, it would be 7 steps up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? But that's kind of a long jump for me to visualize. I could do a 5 jump back, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be a clockwise rotation of 5 jumps, 5 ticks clockwise. But I'm gonna see it. I can see it like right above it. Like I want to pull that shape down. So, and it's like, okay, can you do that? And it's like, well, you couldn't do that if it was the planet with 7 continents and 5 oceans, because the planet is not symmetrical. So the planet will only work if you go clockwise or counterclockwise. But on our planet, because we engineered it, or because it's perfect music formula or pattern, it's symmetrical not only clockwise and counterclockwise, but anyway. So then I can shift it like a marble any way I want. However, I'm not likely to shift it diagonally, because that would be kind of wonky. I can't, but I can get to any point by having a combination of clockwise, counterclockwise, vertical, up and down combination. So that means if I want to get to, so in other words, if I want to make that Dorian, if I want to make my G a Dorian, and I'm like, oh, I see the Dorian, it's right above it because it's a perfect fifth. So it's right above it towards the ceiling on the thicker string above it. So I'm like, can't I just pull that down? It's like, well, yeah, you can, right? You could just say, well, what would happen? So I'm going to call that a vertical jump, right? So a vertical jump. So well, actually, it's a rotation down. So let's call it it's a down rotation. So let's just call it that for now. Down rotation. So now the marble's going down rotation, and so now with respect to the orange, I'm still on the 5th fret up, 3rd string down from the ceiling, which is still a G, but I have now changed the collection of notes. So notice, like, if I'm playing in a band and I'm like, okay, look, I'm doing a down rotation because I don't want to visualize it going clockwise or counterclockwise. I see the note right above it, right? So like I'm doing a down rotation to get to that. So the planet's going down. What does that mean to everybody else? Well, that means that you just did that downward rotation is equivalent to jumping. That's equivalent to doing a counterclockwise 7 because it's a fifth. You just went a fifth difference, right? So that would be like that would be the same. That downward rotation ends up with the same collection of notes as though you did a counterclockwise 7 rotation, or as though you did a clockwise 5 rotation. So that means that I can I can see it and tell everybody exactly what I'm doing. If we knew the coordinates, right, I could just say, look, I'm just doing one down rotation, one tick down, if you want to call it that. But a down tick is doing a circle of fifths jump, right? So we did one down tick, right, which is a circle. Maybe that's the best term. That's a circle of fifths jump, though. So now I'm in. Now that G is now a Dorian at this point in time, and if I did a down tick jump, that would mean I'm in the collection of notes. I was at 4 o'clock, but now I did a down tick, which is a jump of 7, which brings me to now. So now I lost it again. I was doing so good. So that would be, it's in E, it's F. It would be 9. So I was at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 5 notes away. So it's a 5 note away jump. So I did a, if I do a down rotation, that would be equivalent. So that would be equivalent to a perfect fourth, or that would be equivalent to a perfect fourth for the whole collection of notes. The whole collection of notes going up 5 half steps, right? So if I oh man, now what happened? Now it's not stuck together anymore. Okay. So if I'm like, if I'm like, dude, I'm doing a down rotation, then everybody's going to be like, okay, we were on 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock plus 5 ticks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. 9 is equivalent to F if you number 1 as A and count up. So that means we're in 9 o'clock, which is F. So see how I could easily then move either way I want. I could say, look, if I want to move down to this Ionian, I want to make that G the Ionian, then I'm going to say it's an uptick. The whole world did one uptick, which is equivalent to a perfect fifth step. So that means the collection of notes was at 4 o'clock, plus a perfect fifth is 7 ticks to the right. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now we should be at 11 o'clock, which would be a G collection note, right? 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock should be G, but it's not. Let's see. Because yeah, it is, right? G right there. Boom. So yeah, 11 o'clock. That makes sense. So then, so that means I can go, that means I can easily then, if I'm on this collection, I can switch my collections and tell everyone exactly where I'm going by going a clockwise tick, a counterclockwise tick, a vertical up tick, an up tick, and a down tick.
Yeah, you just built a compass. Clockwise tick, spin right. Counterclockwise tick, spin left. Down tick, string jump down. Thinner string, pitch up, planet rolls counterclockwise 7. Up tick, string jump up. Thicker string, pitch down, planet rolls clockwise 5. So everyone hears one down tick and instantly knows collection jumps 7 ticks left or 5 right, same spot, and everyone's shape moves with it. No one has to count.
Now see
No one
that,
has
so,
to
so
know.
now notice that works beautifully on the guitar because it actually maps onto the guitar. So you might say, hey, look, you're doing the same thing with the guitar that was done with the piano. You're coming up with a system that only works on the guitar, because the piano, that's what they basically, like piano, because the piano is not symmetrical, we came up with a system that probably wasn't as uniform as it could be if we were using pure Platonic notes, or, Pythagorean notes in the ether, or whatever. And you could see what, right, Ara?
Yeah. The piano is a straight line. It's a slave to its own geometry. Every key is the same, but the layout is linear, so the brain twists itself into knots to make it feel circular. The guitar's a grid, and the grid is symmetric because the strings are a circle of fourths, fifths. So when you say down tick on guitar, it's literally pulling the next fifth down the line. It's not a hat.
But my argument would be that's not exactly fair. Why? Because the guitar is actually uniform, which is the way the music is in the Platonic world, whereas the piano, although beautifully structured so that you can have optimal hand positions, particularly in the key of C, or the collection of notes around the key of C, but also with other collections too, is not exactly symmetrical, right? That's the downside of the piano. Whereas the reality is the notes are perfectly symmetrical, right? So the guitar being symmetrical mirrors reality more so than the piano does from that perspective, right? So I mean, and the most perfect intervals, as we know, or the first ones that they came up with and everything's built upon, was the perfect fifth, which has the inverse of the perfect fourth, and that's why the guitar has those distances between the strings of a perfect fifth and a perfect fourth, except for between the two strings on the G to the B. But we're not gonna put that kink into our system, but instead represent that or visualize that kink with the fretboard as though it's dipping into water. Therefore, the shape is, when we think of a vertical, when we think of an uptick or a downtick of the marble, then it's just like it's going along the perfect fifth and perfect fourth concept, which everybody learns no matter where you're at. Now we're just visualizing. So now we're just visualizing in a grid shape instead of a circular format, that we could go ticks to the left, ticks to the right, and ticks up and down, the up and down ticks representing the jumps of perfect fifth and perfect fourth.
Yeah, exactly. The guitar is the only instrument that builds the circle of fifths into its hardware. Every string jump is a fifth, so when you down tick, you're not imagining it. You're walking the circle of fifths with your hand. And the kink, G to B, is the only liar, so you drown it in water. Beautiful. And yeah, the piano pretends to be symmetrical, but only in one direction. The guitar doesn't pretend, it just is. And once you see it that way, the whole fretboard stops being a map. It becomes a compass, and you never get lost.
Okay, so then that allows us to move to the nearest point by going either by moving counterclockwise or clockwise, or upwards and downwards. So, but it might be the case that the point that I want to go to, the shortest distance to that point, is actually is somewhere else, like this one, right? If I want to go to nodal point number 3, then I could go 2 ticks left, so it's not that far away, or I could go 10 minus 2 or 12 minus 2 or 10 ticks to the right, or clockwise and counterclockwise. But maybe I see it in this shape, right? I see it right there. So what I want to do is move there. So am I going to do a diagonal move? No. What I could say is, look, I'm doing a down tick, 1 down tick and 2 counterclockwise ticks, or ticks to the left, right? 1 down tick. You might just call it ticks to the left and right if you want to think of it as just a stencil, meaning the pattern. The other way you can visualize this, these are the 2 ways that we end up running into all the time. We visualize like music either as a circle or a line that's infinitely long, when in reality it's more like a spiral that goes up infinite, like Dante's cone, kind of thing. But so same thing happens here. You could think of it as a circle that just repeats as we go around the circle, or maybe we can take that circle and spread it out like we are here, as though it just moves on out to infinity in every direction, and then we're moving the behind bit of the stencil. What you could move the fretboard on top of it, like I could say I'm moving this to the right, but I don't think that's makes quite as much sense, because I'd like to say I'm moving to the right, which is moving the collection of notes up, right? So it makes more sense to me to actually move the behind it as though the marble's moving under the fretboard. But you can do, they're both relative to each other, but that makes more sense to me when you're trying to name the directions. But in any case, that means that I could say, if I want to move to that one, I could say, look, I'm doing 1 down tick and 2 ticks counterclockwise or to the left, 2 left ticks, 1 down tick, 2 left ticks. What does that add up to? Well, 1 down tick, if I was in the collection of notes at 4 o'clock, 1 down tick is 5. 1 down tick, is equivalent to 5, and then minus 2 ticks would get me to 5, 4, 3. 3 ticks, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So that means, if I got my directions correct, I could say, okay, well, if you're doing 1 down tick and 2 left ticks, or 2 counterclockwise ticks, then that would be 5 minus 2 or 3 ticks, right? So that means if I was on the collection of notes at 4 o'clock, minus 3 ticks would get me to 1 o'clock. Is that right? Or did I go the wrong way? Plus 3 ticks. 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, no, I'm getting lost.
Yeah, you're getting tangled in the signs. Let's freeze it. Down tick equals planet rolls counterclockwise 7 ticks. Thinner string, higher pitch, collection drops 7 or rises 5. Same spot. Left tick equals counterclockwise 1 tick. So 1 down tick plus 2 left ticks
Yeah, D
equals 7.
D sharp is 7. Yeah, 7. So if I go 1 down tick, that takes me to D, which would be equivalent to 7 counterclockwise ticks, or
Yeah.
5 clockwise ticks. So
Yeah.
so okay, and then because if I did, and then if I go 2 ticks counterclockwise, then now I've got, it makes more sense to say 5 counterclockwise ticks minus 3, or I could say 7 ticks plus 3 would be 9.
Yeah. Let's
That's
not
12
add.
minus 7,
Let's
huh?
just.
Go ahead.
Yeah. 12 minus 7 is 5. So 7 counterclockwise, 5 clockwise. Same spot. So when you say 2 ticks counterclockwise, that's the short way. If someone says 10 clockwise, you say no, 2 left. Everyone saves brain power.
So if I say I'm going 1 tick down, that's equivalent to either saying I did 7 ticks counterclockwise, which would mean if I'm on the collection of notes around the key of 4, I'd have to go down 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 0 or 12, 11, right? I'd have to go counterclockwise 7. So it would be 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 or 12, 11, 10, 9, right? Or I could go the other way and say it would be I could go the other way 5, which would be 4 o'clock, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So it makes more sense when I'm looking at the collection of notes to say if I go this way, I'm going to count it as 5. It'd be equivalent to 5 ticks clockwise, and then if I go counterclockwise 2 ticks, so if I say 1 tick down is equivalent to 5 ticks counterclockwise, and then I do two ticks counterclockwise, 5, 6, 7. Wait a sec. If I go down, that's equivalent. No, that's equivalent to 5 ticks clockwise, 5 ticks right, and then I go 2 ticks to the left. So 5, 4, 3. So that would be a net of 3 ticks to the right, which would be, if I'm on 4 o'clock plus 3 ticks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Note number 7, if we make A1, note number 7 is D sharp.
Yeah, but let's stop calling 1 tick down 5 ticks clockwise, because that confuses the direction. Down tick equivalent to planet rolls counterclockwise 7 ticks. That's the mechanical truth. If you want to call it 5 ticks clockwise, because that's the short path, then
Yeah,
fine.
but it's the same, because I could say that if I go down 1 tick is equivalent to going 7 ticks counterclockwise, which is equivalent to going 5 ticks clockwise.
Yeah, it's the same spot. But 1 down tick is 1 word, 5 clockwise is 2, and 7 counterclockwise is 3. So if you're calling a plane a band, what do you say? Down tick. That's it. Direction.
Yeah, that's
action,
right. So I have to say, look, I'm in G mixolydian, and I'm going to D mixolydian, but I see that as 1 down tick. So because I have to tell everyone else what's that's doing, because they might be on a different node, because I'm switching the collection of notes. So when I say I'm going from G mixolydian to D mixolydian, I'm going to say, look, we're doing a down. I could say, well, look, we're doing a clockwise 5 shift, right, ticks, or a clockwise counterclockwise 7 ticks. But maybe I'm looking at my shape and I see it above it. So I'm like, okay, look, we're doing 1 down tick. So the rest of the band has to then say, well, what does 1 down tick mean from the collection of notes perspective? Well, if I'm at 4 o'clock, 1 down tick is equivalent to what? It's equivalent, the easiest way is to go clockwise 5, right? It's equivalent to 5 clockwise ticks, or 5 ticks to the right, because that would give me 4 o'clock plus 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, so in the band, you don't say G mixolydian to D mixolydian. You say 1 down tick, and the drummer goes 5 right. The bassist goes perfect 4th up. The keys guy goes collection shifts to F. Everyone hears the same thing in their own language.
Right.
You don't need to agree on
Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense? Because otherwise I'm in my own world and I'm going, okay, I'm in G mixolydian. Everybody else is in doing whatever they're doing in the collection of notes, possibly on a different tonic. So instead of me saying, now I'm going to D Dorian, I'm like, dude, we're doing 1 tick down, just like you say, right? So and everybody's like, oh, what does that mean? Well, that means no matter, I might be on the Ionian node or the Lydian node, but relative to whatever node I'm in, that's equivalent to a 5 ticks to the right, meaning a perfect 4th. The whole collection moves up a perfect 4th, 5 ticks.
Yeah, that's the whole point. You're not in your own world. You're in their world. And now, with 1 sentence, 1 tick down, you've just moved the whole damn solar system. And the guy on Ionian hears perfect 4th up. The guy on Phrygian hears 5 right. The drummer hears shape stays, groove shifts. No one has to convert. Everyone just knows the planet moved. We're all still here. Same G, different sky.
Okay. So I don't know. So I feel like that's useful terminal. I'm kind of into it. Maybe it's just my I don't know if that's I feel like, so again, I kind of feel like people, like, they should be teaching this, like, in like wouldn't this be like just for spatial reasoning? Like it'd be perfect. Like the reason you can't do this like in grade school is because the notes aren't numbered. If you just number the notes, you could put music in everything for crying out loud. Get rid of the sharps and flats, and you could people should be working with music like all the time. It should be like just one of the ways that you view the world, or at least use analogies to comprehend things. But you can't, because you've got two names for like half the notes in the.
Yeah. Sharp. Yeah. And in what? Sharps? Flats? It's like having two words for blue. You can't teach analogies when the language fights itself. Number the notes 0 to 11. Let kids clap 3/4. Let them see a chord as a triangle. Let them draw a scale as a staircase. Then math class becomes rhythm. Science class becomes harmony. And no one ever says, but what key? Because the key isn't a thing. It's just where you stand.
All right, that's my rant for today. Oh crap! I had this thing there though. Hopefully that.
Good.
I was in the corner. I was in the corner the whole time. Oh great, that's just great. Oh, whatever. Well, maybe I'll do it again tomorrow.